So let's talk about assumptions and how they can get in the way of great relationships and results. So we make assumptions all the time. You're making an assumption right now about what I'm going to say. There's a lot of models around assumptions that have been around for a long, long time. Sometimes the assumptions are called stories, sometimes they're called conclusions. But here's how most of the models work. We see and hear something. We could see and hear the exact same thing, and I could make an assumption that's very different than yours. Our mind automatically makes up assumptions when we see something because it's trying to figure out what's going on. So we make an assumption, and the assumption drives an emotion. So the emotion isn't there first. The assumption is there, which drives the emotion, and the emotion drives a behavior. And it can be a good emotion and a good assumption and a good behavior. But most often when we're stressed or things aren't going well or we're unsure, as human beings, we often make a lot of negative assumptions. And this is where it really gets in the way if we don't check them out. Because we're often wrong about the assumption, but we go on acting like it's reality. I'll give you an example. Say your boss walks in your office 3 times on Monday morning and says, "How you doing on that project?" And the assumption might be, what, does he not think I'm competent? He doesn't think I'm good enough? He doesn't think I'm done with this? The emotion might be anger, disappointment, hurt, upset. And maybe the reaction to that is, well, if my boss doesn't think I'm competent and can't do my job, maybe I'll look for another job somewhere else. That could be an example of a negative assumption. It could be you have this great relationship with your boss and you're almost done with the project, and your boss walks in and says, "How you doing on that project?" 3 times on Monday morning. And by the 3rd time, you realize, oh my gosh, I bet he has extra time. He knows I'm buried and overwhelmed, and he's here to help me. Which you could see would drive a completely different emotion of thank you, grateful, joy, like appreciative, which would have you be more connected to your boss and appreciate him even more. So what we really want to do is when we have assumptions, especially if we think it's one that's going to separate us from someone or is going to impact us negatively, just check it out. Just ask, hey, just curious. You're coming 3 times this morning asking me about it. What's underneath that? What's going on? And most often it's a positive thing, and then it'll change how you see it. Because once we have an assumption, we often keep looking for other things to happen to validate the assumption we have. So the assumption gets bigger and bigger because usually what we're looking for is what we see. So simple rule, when we have an assumption, check it out. It makes us get more connected to people and definitely produce better results.